Hello, everyone, and good evening. Welcome to the Pumpkins and Popcorns podcast, episode 2. Weston, we've made it to episode 2. Can you believe it?
I can't believe it. Not at all.
Anyone that doesn't know, back during COVID, like 2020, we had another podcast that I think we recorded 2 episodes. And then we're just like, we don't really want to do this anymore. So we have tied our record of 2 episodes.
Yeah, but it was too niche. The last one we did was only horror nights, as far as I'm aware. I remember the only thing we talked about was horror nights and ideas. And with this one, a lot of it is horror nights because a lot of the Halloween stuff we like is kind of central around horror nights. However, we can also talk about other stuff. We can talk about movies. We can talk about video games. We can talk about lots of Halloween stuff and horror related content and stuff like that. But, that last one was just so niche in that one area. It was like after Horror Nights was over and after everybody was speculating, we were like, what are we gonna do now? And
Yeah,
nothing
right.
happened. So
Right. Well, speaking of Horror Nights, today we thought that since we are in the heart, the heart of Halloween Horror Nights speculation season, we thought that we would create our own Halloween Horror Nights event app with what we think is the perfect event, with IPs that have yet come to the event, and our own originals. So we've made 5 scare zones and 10 haunted houses. And I don't know if there's a way we can publish on our social media. I should probably promote our social media here too, that I created all these social media accounts.
yeah.
You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Pumpkins and Popcorn. Who would have thought that it'd be called Pumpkins and Popcorn? You can also find us on Twitter at Pumpkins Popcorn, because Pumpkins and Popcorn was too long. It wouldn't let me use that. And then I've also created a TikTok for our podcast, Pumpkins and Popcorn, because again, Pumpkins and Popcorn was too long, and I wanted to be hip and have the in there.
Be like all other cool kids.
I'm like all the hello fellow kids, like Steve Buscemi. And also, you can listen to our podcast on our YouTube channel, Pumpkins and Popcorn. These two will not have any video. It's just kind of the logo, with the audio. If you don't want to go to like a podcasting app, you can just go to our YouTube channel, Pumpkins and Popcorn. It's got our cool logo that I created. I'm very proud of myself for creating, with a jack-o'-lantern and a box of popcorn. Who would have thought?
You know what though? I think there might be some video coming around maybe August 31st, maybe sometime around then. You think that's possible? Maybe September 1st?
I think there might be. Maybe before then. I don't know.
Maybe.
Depending on what's going on. I'm going to Orlando this weekend. I'm going to try to go to Universal maybe. See what's going on there. With construction and stuff like that. A lot of it you can't really see. I actually posted a TikTok, Wes, and I sent it to you. I was very proud of it. And it's kind of talking about taking illegal pictures behind the scenes and getting caught by a team member at Universal. But I'm not going to say what the video actually is. You need to go check it out at our TikTok, Pumpkins Popcorn. Go check it out. All right, so let's get to our maps. Would you like to go first? So basically what we did, we took a template map of Halloween Horror Nights, how it's been in the past, and we kind of filled it out. Not together. We have seen each other's, but we don't know what the meaning behind the houses or the scare zones are. So
other than the IPs. I mean, you can kind of guess the IPs just from what it is.
Right,
so.
yeah. Honestly, half of my original houses have some stupid concept behind them or something I thought would be cool, but I don't have really like a backstory. You'll find out when I try to describe them, and I'm unable to. But do you want to start with your? I don't know how you want to start this, but
I figured what we could probably do is go through I mean, so here's the thing. Should we do all the houses for each person, do each one first? Like somebody starts with one house and the other person goes to one house, or should we do I don't know, because again, with these original concepts, we can talk about them a little bit, but it's not like they're going to take forever to talk about.
Right.
So, I mean, my idea is maybe I'll do all my houses, you do all your houses, I'll do all my scare zones, you do all your scare zones, and then we'll just go from there. You want to do that?
Yeah, yeah, we could do that. You could go first if you'd like.
Sure, why not?
All
Let's see what
right.
we got. Let
I'm
me
gonna
pull up my.
follow along because I know you sent me yours.
I did.
See if I can. Ah, here it is.
So mine now to give a backstory, I also just because one of the scare zones, this is kind of important for him. We'll get there eventually. I created a kind of iconish person for the event too. I'm a huge fan of the Puppet Theater House, and so my idea was that the icon for the event would be um, kind of like a puppeteer, puppet maker type character, really tall, skinny, one of those scary masquerade style or theatrical style masks that you saw inside of puppet theater. And so the whole event is themed around kind of all your fears with quote unquote no strings attached as like a puppet joke kind of. I
Yeah,
I thought it was kind of funny. It's
it
kind of
sounds
stupid, but it's funny.
it sounds like my worst nightmare. I'm afraid of puppets and dummies but I did enjoy puppet theater. I thought the house was fantastic, but like a dummy like Dead Silence, no me gusta, not my
Yeah.
favorite. But
See, it wouldn't be like that. It would be more like the marionette style ones. It would be like the old, like vintage, early 1900s, late 1800s style that the puppet theater house was. It wouldn't be like full on Charlie McCarthy or anything like that.
right,
The dummies. It would be more.
Howdy Doody.
No, nothing like that.
Oh,
Don't worry about
terrifying.
that.
They could do. I know that was like totally a children's show and not meant to be scary. But if Horror Nights really wanted to scare me, they just have a haunted house based on Howdy Doody. Just to me, that is the most terrifying thing ever.
so, so let's get into it with my first
Right.
house. So the first house I picked, and anybody who knows me personally is going to be like, wow, I never would have expected that ever in my entire life. Um, but the first house for me is something that I have asked for years and wanted to come for years and potentially could be coming. I bet it will within, if the movie gets released, fingers crossed, anytime between now and 2025. I see it happening within the next 2 or 3 years, and that house is BioShock. Um, BioShock has been my absolute all-time favorite franchise other than Star Wars for literally as long as I can remember, since I was about, I don't know, 7 or 8 years old and probably shouldn't have known about BioShock. I don't know how old I was at the time. I'm trying to remember. It was 2007, so that was a while ago. I was, gosh, it's 2023 now. 2007 minus 23. I don't know. I was young. I was maybe I was 11. I don't know. I was something like that. But I was really young and shouldn't have known anything about it. And I really, really liked it because it was back when like Halo and stuff like that was out, and I was in all those shooter games. And I found BioShock. I've loved it for my entire life since then. Been my favorite thing other than Star Wars, like I said. So, with both of those things in mind, the idea for a Bioshock house, from my perspective, would not be to go by the story. And Connor, you haven't played these, have you? You haven't played Bioshock.
No, I've seen, I'm familiar with it. I know like the Big Daddies and stuff like that. But no, I have not played it.
So, to give you some background, this third game is Bioshock Infinite, and it takes place in a different city that, in my opinion, is not scary at all, and it's not meant to be as scary. It's scary ideology wise. I don't know how to say that, because it's super, super weirdly like they worship like the founding fathers of America and like twist it and dement it. It's really weird. Um, and it's not like a, oh, I'm proud of my country way. It's like in a really, really messed up way. You'd have to play it to understand, but you know what I'm talking about. So that would not be included in this. This would be the first game, BioShock. It would be the second BioShock, and it would be a little bit from that third game where Rapture, the city that's underwater, is in that game. So you would have, my idea is you wouldn't actually follow through the main story of the first game, but you would instead kind of follow through just different parts of Rapture. So you would have like the welcome center, you could have the first aid pavilion, you could have Fort Frolic, you could have Persephone from Bioshock 2, you could have Fontaine's department store from Bioshock Burial at Sea, which is part of Infinite, or the third one. So it could be really cool. I think doing Rapture and doing the Big Daddies and the Splicers and the Little Sisters and stuff like that, and just building a house around that instead of telling the full story of the first game, which could not be told in a house. It just you could do scenes from all three of those games I mentioned with you as kind of the central person just visiting Rapture, but I wouldn't want to follow footstep by footstep the story of the first game necessarily with Jack and stuff like that. So that's my all-time favorite house. That's what I've been looking forward to for a long time. I'm ready to have it here. I don't know if it'll ever come. It's kind of looking like it might, so that is good to know. But yeah, that's my top. So I'll go to number 2. My number 2 house, which is a IP based house as well, would be It. So I love It. Connor, we saw that together in
Yeah.
2017 as Horror Nights was going on, I believe, or not even as it was going on. It was
I
right before it came out, I
I was
think,
about to
right?
say it was I think Horror Nights started, I think maybe the week after that, after we saw it.
So I really love the idea of It being there. I know they don't work with Warner Brothers very well. I know they have some issues with that, but I think it'd be kind of cool. I mean, I'm sure you feel the same way. I would love to see it. I really love Pennywise. I felt like that an It themed house would be absolutely fantastic. So yeah, I'd love to see that.
I know that you'd really like the lady from the painting
She's
to
so
come out and
scary.
scare you.
She's terrifying, and
I don't
I
know.
do. I think it'd be scary.
How do you think they would, like, if they were to do that? Do you think that'd be like a mask?
Yeah,
That
still
would be the
walking
only
with a
way.
mask.
Or they could do like they did. I mean, I know you didn't go through it, but Poltergeist, they kind of had like these giant like creatures that were like run by puppeteers. I don't know if that they could do something like that, but I feel like you could use something like that for the part where like he comes out of the TV and he's gigantic. You could have that be like a giant, like, remember from Killer Clowns how they had like
Oh yeah.
Clownzilla, except
Oh,
not
for
a
sure.
not a blow up, like a giant puppet
You
that
could
came
for
out.
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. I see them using a lot of puppets, and I would like a very puppet heavy house personally in all of these. I mean, even with like BioShock, I think that BioShock would be perfect for puppets with the Big Daddies because
right.
proportionally, I mean, I've been working on a Big Daddy costume for a long time, and proportionally with those guys, you can't have somebody just in a suit. The only way to operate it properly and get it to look correct is if it's a half puppet, half costume type suit. So just because the arm extensions and everything like that. So it's possible to have it as like an actual costume, but for the purposes of a haunted house or something like Horror Nights, I would not do that. I would have them as a full-on puppet with somebody puppeteering it from the back so you can get the size. And I wouldn't have legs attached to it. I would have them like coming through a wall or something, and then maybe just have a static figure or something like that where the arms could be controlled in another room. So a lot of my houses, you will find out very shortly, would be very puppet heavy. I love puppets at events. I love big costumes, but I think puppets work really well for these kind of houses. So, yes, I think so. I think having the giant Pennywise come through the wall or come through the TV or what was it? It's like a projection.
Yeah, it was like a projection screen. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Having Pennywise like come through the projection would be amazing. So,
Yeah.
all right. What is my third? So I'll go to my third IP based house, which is, and I could see this happening next year. I could see it happening
Definitely.
2024, something like that. You're looking at
Definitely.
my IPs too?
I am, yes.
Yeah.
And I know that's what I was actually listening to another podcast today at work, and they were saying that they think that this, if they continue on with this theme, I'm not going to spoil it yet, that this needs to be at
Next.
least part of it.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. And I mean, they like to include more than one, but I'll just go ahead and spoil it. So it's Creature from the Black Lagoon, which is my favorite monster of all time, like movie monster. Um, And look, there's not much to say. It's just Creature from the Black Lagoon. I think they could have a versus house, but if I were going to make a versus house, it would be Wolfman versus Creature from the Black Lagoon. I don't know why I see that working well, but it just feels right to me. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, right. And it's funny because like you don't really think that a versus would be good, but they proved last year with Universal Monster Legends Collide that it works really well and they can get some really good scares. Like I know there was one part where they had the triple scare that was rare and it was like only a certain people got it, but it was literally monsters coming at you from like all different directions at one time.
It's fantastic.
But yeah, I think Creature was my favorite part of the 2019 Monsters House,
Me too.
and I totally agree that, and I think a lot of other people in the community agree that Creature needs his own house or to be part of a house. You think it'd be Wolfman?
So here's the thing. This is my thought process with this. So with Dracula and the Mummy and the Wolfman, you set it inside the temple, and you can have any of those characters inside the temple, and it would make sense. Think about this from this perspective. With the temple or the wherever it was, I think it was a temple in the last one, right? In Legends Collide,
Yeah, it was like in
Temple of Anubis, right?
Karis, the mummy Karis. His they're like there for like amulet or something like that.
Well, think about it this way. Wolfman can travel. He can walk and get on boats and stuff. Obviously, he was in a boat in the queue. Dracula can travel. He can fly and do all different sorts of stuff. Mummy can't really travel, I wouldn't say, unless he goes into like his human form. He's kind of stuck wherever he's at, which is why I think they put it in the temple, which it would have been perfect for that anyway. So like having the Wolfman and Dracula travel to that temple kind of makes sense. It feels right. It's like, oh yeah, I get that. However, with Creature, it just it doesn't feel right to put him anywhere other than a swamp, or not even a swamp, but like a river or a lake or an ocean or something where he can swim, because having him just like in the middle of a city is just not going to work. Like I do not think that would be cool. Just all of a sudden you're walking and it's like, where did he come from? Like, I guess he's in the sewers or something. But
Right.
I mean, that's the only thing I could see is if they set it somewhere where Creature fought somebody else. Maybe it's like a sewer system he's using to travel. You're like in the sewer, I guess. But like I could imagine going into like a really heavily wooded area that's got a lake or a river. Like, I mean, where they filmed Creature from the Black Lagoon? What was it? Silver Springs or Silver Glen? I think it's Silver Springs, right?
Here in was it in Florida? It was in Florida, right?
Some of it was. Some of it was on a
Yeah.
Universal set in California as well, I believe. But yes, it was in Florida.
So there is a town north of Orlando, Silver Springs.
I think that's what it
So
is.
that must be it, right? That
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, so they filmed it there, and there's lots of trees and stuff like that. So the trees around a river, around a like a lake, river, whatever you want to call it, that gives Creature the option to get out of the lake, go in the lake, and it gives the Wolfman the option to hide behind trees, because I know he does really well with trees. So you can put him behind trees. You can have Creature coming out of the lake and coming out of the river and all that sort of stuff. And that, in my opinion, is the best way to have it. So I think I see that happening. I don't see another character coming to it. I mean, I guess you could have Dracula again, but like, I don't know, maybe they'll do Frankenstein, like the monster, Frankenstein's monster versus Creature from the Black Lagoon. But what would he do? Where where would you put that the Creature and Frankenstein fight each other? You know what I mean? And they're also both green. Not that that's a
Right.
bad thing. It's just kind of weird. Like the color palette in my mind, which again I work on costumes and stuff and artwork, so I just think of things for merchandise and the way things would look on merchandise. I see Creature from the Black Lagoon and Wolfman looking really good together on like a t-shirt. Like I just imagine those colors, the browns and the blues and the whites of the Wolfman going really well with the green and the red and the yellow that the Creature has. You know what I mean?
Right. And I
Yeah.
think you should claim it right now in case Universal decides to use that. Like if they're listening, you could say, "Hey, Universal, pay me because that's my idea."
I don't even want to be paid. I just want to acknowledge that any other people that are listening right now, not Universal, because I'm cool, because they probably have already thought about it. I just want to claim that
Right.
I guessed it first, if that was what it is.
Right.
That's all I
And
want.
and
Just
and it,
see
and it is
something
it
like
is a
that.
good design too.
Yeah, like I could see that.
Yeah,
Not
I think
Phantom and Creature either, because I keep thinking of Monsters versus Creature, and none of them make sense other than Wolfman. I just don't see it. I mean, maybe they could go real far out of their realm and use a really weird movie like The Mole Men. You know anything about that? That's a Universal
the
Monsters movie.
Mole Man.
The Mole Men, yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard of that one.
You should watch it. It's interesting.
Yeah. Is it like from the 30s? Is it
It's
like back
50s.
from it's 50s?
Yeah, it's
Okay, so it's that kind of like
oh
is
yeah.
it like a B movie?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
It's
okay.
it's great.
That
I
I was
mean,
about to say that probably
Creature's
means
not really, it is a B movie, but no, you know what I mean? I don't know how to describe it. Like, Creature is technically a B movie ish, correct? Or am I mistaken on that?
when I think of B movie, I don't know because the 50s is a weird time
Exactly.
because that
Because
was
it
every
wasn't a B
movie.
movie. All of them were that way. Yeah.
Yeah, that was it was actually a movie about bees. Like that's what made a B
You
movie.
like jazz?
You like jazz? Oh
All
my
right, moving on to my next, second to last IP. And this one, if they were doing a partnership with Netflix for Bioshock anyway, you may as well just go ahead and do a second partnership with them for this. And that is Midnight Mass. Now,
yeah.
Connor, have you watched Midnight Mass?
I haven't yet, but
Then that's no. We're not
yeah.
saying anything. Then no. All you need to know is it needs to be a house at Horror Nights, and I'm not going to spoil anything else for you about it unless. Have you had anything spoiled for you?
No, I just know that Hamish Linklater is in it.
Okay.
He is a priest of some sort, and all I know is that it's from the creators of what's it called? Oh my God, what was the house that we had 2 years ago?
That's a good question.
What's it called? Oh my God, I can't.
Oh, it's what's it called? It's Hill House, Haunting of Hill
Haunting
House.
of Hill House. I know they
Yeah.
also did Bly Manor came to my head. Bly Manor was they also did, but Hill House is what I was thinking. Haunting of Hill
Hey,
House.
I don't mean this any offense to anybody listening or anything like that, but don't watch Black Manor if you. It's such a waste of time.
So, from what I hear, so the complaint I had about Hill House was there was too much drama. Just show me the ghosts. Just show me the scary things. I watched it later than everybody else,
Yeah.
because it was coming to Horror Nights, and I remember everyone talking about, oh, there's ghosts all over the place. You watch YouTube videos, and there's like, oh, I didn't even see that ghost there. I thought that was a ghost. Blah 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 blah. That didn't happen enough. Stop with the family drama. Just show me the ghosts.
Well, I think personally that if that's the way you feel about Hill House, you shouldn't even think about watching Blind Manor, because that's all it is drama. It's not even
Right.
like, oh, it's like, no. Let's just completely and totally just forget about anything that you thought was interesting about Hill House, and it just focuses in on the drama, and the drama is just straight up not interesting at all.
Right.
I have one episode left, and I haven't even finished it, and it's only like an hour or so, and I'm just like, ugh, I don't want to have to go through this again. Like, it just feels like I'm being dragged out to watch this stuff, and it's like,
Right.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, right. And well, that was like with Hill House. I don't even think I watched the whole thing. I think I ended up watching maybe 4 episodes. I got bored by all the drama, so I just went on YouTube and watched like a synopsis. And I'm like, okay, and the house totally made sense to me. Like like I understood everything. So
That was
'cause
one of the best houses there that year, in my opinion, personally, though. That was a fantastic house.
I thought the part where you're walking down the black corridor and you hear voices and then there's like a mannequin above you, that was pretty scary. But I think there were better houses that year. Personally, that's just my opinion. But that's not why we're here. We're here to talk about Midnight Mass. And no, I have not seen it yet. You say that I shouldn't get any spoilers because anything you talk about it is going to be a spoiler. You told me don't even look anything up about it because it'll spoil. There's like some sort of twist, and I don't want to get spoiled because I like twists. I like the former, like 2012 to 2015 American Horror Story, or 2016. I don't know, something like that. When it was actually good, in my opinion. I haven't watched it recently.
Oh, geez, I haven't either.
But Roanoke was the last season that I watched, and huge twist in that. Won't spoil it for anyone that hasn't seen it. I know it's been years since it came out, but I won't
Did I
spoil it.
watch that one? I watched it, right?
You did,
Yeah, I just can't remember
because
it.
we went through the American Horror Story Volume 2 house. That was the first house we ever went through at Horror Nights.
There sure was.
And we came out of that house and I said, Weston, that house was fantastic. And you're like, I have no idea what happened. And I said, you gotta watch American Horror Story. And so you watched Roanoke, and the butcher from Roanoke, spoiler alert, I mean, it's not really a spoiler alert, a character, was in the scare zone outside of the house. And you're like, oh my God, that's the butcher. And I'm like, yeah, who would have thought?
Well, I'm trying to remember now. So I'm just trying to remember something to tell you a good explanation for you of Midnight Mass. But the problem about Midnight Mass is that within the first freaking episode, it sets everything up towards the end, and you realize very quickly what it is. But I feel like going into it not knowing what it is and not knowing what it's about is so much better, because I told my friend at first, my friend who came over, he was like, "Hey, let's watch this. I've seen it. It's fantastic." And I said, "I don't really want to watch it. It's called Midnight Mass. That feels a little religious. Like, I don't know if I really want to do that, because like I don't like The Exorcist. I don't like stuff like that. That's like religious based horror. I'm just not into it." And he was like, "No, you don't understand. You got to watch it. It's not what you think it is." And it is religious based. There's a lot of religion in it, but not from a like, hey, we're saying something's bad or something's wrong with religion. It's not like that.
Right.
Nor is it demon. There's no demonic stuff in it, not a single bit, not even 1%. Which my brother asked me because he wanted to watch it too, and I told him he had to. I was like, you got to watch this, and he's like, I don't know if it's like demon stuff I want to watch. And I was like, none, just watch it. So that's basically all I'm going to tell you, and you just need to sit down one night and just watch it. It's only 7 episodes. As soon as you turn the first one on, you won't want to stop watching it. So that's my opinion.
Oh boy.
All right. So the last IP I have is kind of interesting. So I kind of thought about from the perspective of how they did The Weeknd, and they allowed The Weeknd to do his own house, and it was mostly just ideas that he had, and not really based off anything other than his music videos and his music. And my idea was, and I will butcher this name because I butcher all names. Uh, my idea was, somebody I've always been a huge fan of his work and his monsters that he creates would be Guillermo del Toro. And so I thought it would be cool to have a house that was just based on his original concepts for monsters, and just call it the mind of Guillermo del Toro, and just go from there and just let him have at it. So all of it, this would be a very expensive year, but all of it would just be all of it would be based on all of his original concepts, and it would just be stuff that he creates, and Universal would more or less just give him just free roam with everything, and he could do whatever he wanted to. And that's about all I got for that house. That's it.
Have you seen his Pinocchio movie yet on
I
Netflix?
have. Yeah,
It's so good.
fantastic.
And it's kind of creepy, but it's just like that style. But
Yeah.
it deserved the Oscar.
Well, I think of big costumes and big sets, and this year would be extremely
Yeah,
reliant on
right.
big costumes and big sets. So that's kind of my perspective with it. But yeah, all right, I'm gonna go into the originals now if you're
All right.
interested in that.
Yeah, yeah, I'm ready.
So the Cult of the Wendigo would be the first original house that I came up with, and I don't have a perfect story behind these, just ideas, and then somebody else that's a better writer than I am could come up with a good story to match the creative idea. I don't know. It's just my thought. So the Cult of the Wendigo would be a house where the idea is these hikers are hiking in the Appalachian Mountains somewhere in like West Virginia, and it gets really cold one night, and they come across this really small town out there in the Appalachian Mountains. And when I say small, I mean like 5 or 6 houses, a little church, and everything like that. But it turns out, staying there for the night, that even though all of the villagers are really friendly to them and sweet, they actually worship the Wendigo, which is a creature in folklore, specifically, I believe, Appalachian folklore, but I could be mistaken. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. And so, you could have all different sorts of cool stuff from that. You could have a really cool kind of foresty village facade. You could have all these huge Wendigo like creatures being created. You could have, the cult scenes with sacrifices and like rituals and stuff. Really scary stuff that could come from it. So that's my first original. I think other people have actually said something kind of similar, to be honest with you. I think a lot of people have talked about Wendigo houses.
I I have something similar in my map, but it's not that.
Okay.
It's based on something else.
Okay.
But the thought of cults scare me.
Thought of cults scared me too.
I've actually had nightmares of cults.
Oh,
I'm not saying this is a cult per se, but I live about 30 minutes from one of the headquarters of the Church of Scientology, which some could consider a cult. And yeah, I'm just gonna leave it there. My philosophy is everybody to each your own. If it makes you happy, who cares? As long as it's not hurting anybody. So I'm just gonna leave it there. But yeah, cults scary.
very much so. So next thing I've got would be the Wraiths Radio. And that's a really odd name for a house. I'm sure that you saw that on my map and you're like, what the heck does that mean?
I thought it said the Wraths Radio, and I'm like, that's interesting.
No, it's the Wraiths Radio. So the idea is that in the 1930s, there is this really famous antique store somewhere in probably, I would say, Hollywood or something like that. And it's filled with all different sorts of artifacts and different kind of things that from all around the globe, just radios and music boxes and statues and just, if you think of like an antique store and going in there, everything that would be inside that antique store. Just think about that: dolls and puppets and just lamps and weird stuff. But the idea is that somebody one day brings in a radio, and the radio just sits there for a while. Well, overnight one night, it turns out that the radio is haunted by this wraith thing, and the wraith thing awakens other spirits that have been residing inside of other artifacts inside of the antique store. So as you're walking through, there's all different sorts of scares from different types of ghosts and wraiths, and not monsters, because it's all things that are haunting it, not things that are like actual physical creatures. So, just a really crowded, cluttered antique store, weird things to see, weird rooms with price tags hanging off of things, and scary monster thing, ghost things, stuff like that. That's kind of my idea for it.
That's cool.
Yeah,
I know. Me and you, we went to the Lakeland Antique Mall, and so
yeah,
when I think of antique mall, I think of that.
yeah,
Like,
kind of like that.
like how we saw like all the old, like there was like tons of stuff from like opening day of Disneyland there and stuff, like, old stuff. I think that'd be a really cool house.
Yeah, something like that. So, all right, this is my favorite house idea I've ever came up with, and I really want it to be real. So the idea is that it's called Good Eatin'. And to give you a bit of backstory, I really, really, really like Cajun stuff. I really like swamps and stuff like that. And I've loved everything that Horror Nights has done, Cajun-ish or New Orleans or whatever you want to call it. So, like, you remember Dead Waters?
Yeah.
So you remember like the swamp and the marsh and all that kind of stuff, and like how it's got the fog with the green and gators hanging outside and stuff like that. Like, I love that.
Yeah.
So the idea is that one night there are these kids who are in New Orleans, they're getting drunk, and it gets pretty late, but they're really hungry. So they walk outside and they see a local who's this creepy old man sitting there, and he starts talking to them, asking them what they're doing, asking them if they're having a good night. And the idea is that they end up telling them that they're hungry and looking for something to go eat, that they've been partying all night and they just need something to get some food before they go to bed. And he tells them that, oh, there's this really great restaurant just outside of town, not that far, and the restaurant is just simply called Good Eating. And so they go to this restaurant, and it's this really tiny little shack in the middle of like a swamp area. And you can see little flickering lights on the sign that says Good Eating, like it hasn't been changed out, but it looks super warm. The lights coming from inside are yellow and orange, and you can hear people talking. And so they get a little closer, right? And when they go inside, every single one of the customers and the bartenders, and I want to warn you, this is a comedy house like was kind of sort of.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody inside the restaurant is an alligator.
Oh my god.
And so I want them to be these weird humanoid alligator people, and they're eating people as their meals. And so the idea is that the old man was actually like luring them in and gets paid by the gator people. So the entire house would be going through this restaurant and into the kitchen where they're like chopping people up and making like gumbo out of people. And there could be like a little baby alligator who's sitting in a high chair and like munching on some baby legs or something. Like that's the kind of idea that I have with this thing. But I also want it to be funny and for them to kind of look dumb. Like that's kind of the point. So that's probably my favorite house I've ever came up with. And the idea is all the gators are wearing like beads and like it's a New Orleans style party inside of this little restaurant, but they're all alligator people that are eating people.
Good Eating. I think of Alton Brown, like Good Eats.
Maybe it's an Alton Brown house. It's funny enough. We actually have a chef. We want to make a house, right, Connor?
Yeah, we do. We do. But I just think like in this house, like it turns out Alton Brown is like the like king of all the gators or something like that.
Oh my
Or like
god.
Paula Dean.
So the idea of the end of this house is that as you're going out, you walk into the kitchen, and as you're walking into the kitchen, one of the gator things chases you into the next room, and as you go into the next room, like devil head and stuff like that,
Yeah.
a giant gator head pops out and fog goes everywhere, and that's the end of the house.
Wow. So does that mean
That's
you
it.
die?
Yeah,
You get killed.
by the
You
gator.
you done get ate.
Doesn't get ate. Good eating. I don't know. I think it's kind of funny. I think it's kind of
Yeah.
cute. I think it's kind of campy in a weird way. Like they could really capitalize on it the same way they did, like what was it, Slaughter Cinema?
Right, yeah.
Something really funny and B movie-ish like that. That would be
Right.
fantastic.
Well,
So,
also Bugs last year was like that too.
yeah.
Or
Oh,
like
absolutely.
it's like if you don't like Bugs, it's terrifying. Like I'm not the biggest fan of Bugs, so it was really scary. But the ending literally had a like a army guy going, "We gotta blow this place up." Like they're already like.
Could you imagine?
But
Oh my gosh.
yeah, a lot of houses, not a lot of people know you don't make it.
No,
Like
you really don't.
what's it called? Like I know what was that place? Depths of Fear from a couple of years ago. You don't make it out of that submarine. It blows up with you on it. A lot of people don't know that, but
All right, so here's my next one. My next one, I think, was actually rumored to be a house this year, and I've wanted it to be for a while. It is Invasion. So the idea, and I just put a name. I called it Invasion from Planet Zorthron because I thought it was funny to add a planet name to it. I didn't know what else to put
right,
because I didn't want it to just be called Invasion because they don't seem to do that. Like with Dead Man's Pier, because Dead Man's Wharf was the scare zone, but then they
right,
changed the name even though it was the same thing for Dead Man's Pier.
right.
Right. So I changed the name just a little bit. But even though this one technically is a little campy and comedy as well, I actually don't think it should be. I think it should still be set in the 50s and have that 50s invasion vibe, and the aliens should look 50s. But I don't think it should be funny. I think the scene should actually be scary, kind of like, the movie Signs.
Yeah.
And I
Yes.
think it should take place on a farm, and the facade could be a farmhouse with a huge crashed UFO outside of it, like beside with like smoke coming out of it and stuff like that. So that's kind of my ideas. It would be going through this farm where these aliens have invaded, and the farmer's trying to like protect his house and stuff. Like that could be really interesting.
Yeah, yeah, I could. And I know a lot of people, including myself, didn't think the scare zone was that scary. Just kind of cool to look at. But I think a scare like a house would be pretty scary, even with just what the scare zone had.
Yeah, I agree. All right, here's my next one. So, Professor Fright's Haunted Dark Ride. So, the idea for this one is that the haunted house is like an old carnival style attraction, like a dark ride. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
However, the carnival has been closed for years, but people hear noises coming from inside the dark ride still to this day as people are driving by, and there's lights coming from it and just weird things. So you start out going through, and as you're going through, the story behind it is some kids got in there, they turned the dark ride on and were exploring it before they were never seen again. So the idea is, as you're walking through, the dark ride is running, and the first couple of scares in the first like room with the facade or after the facade is actual scares from the dark ride, like cardboard cutout or like cutouts of ghosts and stuff pop up. But as it gets further, you start to realize that a lot of the creatures look really, really, really shockingly real. So the idea is that the person who is residing in this dark ride, who would be Dr. Fright, I'm assuming, uh, would actually be creating monsters out of people, like kind of Frankensteining them together and doing these horrific creations. So slowly, once you get to like a halfway point and you stop seeing, so it'll kind of transition from haunted like attraction style props like the old ones, the cutouts, to those props with kind of weird things added. Like you'll see like an actual body hanging down, and it's like, that's weird, that looks like it's kind of real, like I don't understand. And then
Right.
as it transitions into the third act is these human hybrid monster things that this guy has created in a lab, and it ends, the last place is his lab, and you see all his creations and him working on it, and then it just ends. Not necessarily a story that you die or anything, it's just kind of the idea of like going through it. So that's kind of my
Right.
idea for that too.
Almost reminds me of Carnival Graveyard from a couple years ago.
Yeah, kind of like that. Kind of those
Except I
ideas.
don't think that was a ride. You were just going through the carnival and like the carnies took over, and
Yeah.
like I don't think it was like a specific ride. I think it was just like the whole carnival.
Yeah, this one would be more like an abandoned dark ride that like there's some weird crazy scientist who's been making things in the back. Like that's
Yeah,
how
right.
so. But yeah, that's my house ideas. Do you want me to just finish it out real quick?
Yeah,
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 let's
yeah.
finish
Go
it out.
ahead.
All right, so the first scare zone I had, since my theme was all around marionettes and stuff like that, is called Marionette Workshop. And this is pretty simple. Do you remember back in 2017 how there was a zone that had every single one of the houses as, or all the IPs walking around as walk around characters?
Yeah, right, right.
Kind of like that, still walk around characters. Um, but the walk around characters are all themed like puppet theater. However, the marionettes, some of them that are hanging on the walls, like we could have these big, huge props. You know how they had last year little tributes set up to each one of the houses?
Yes, yes.
So for Halloween 31, they had like a tribute for, or I'm sorry, it might have been the scare zones because they had like a sweets one set up, and then they had stuff like that.
Right. Yeah,
It was the
yeah,
scare zones.
yeah.
That
I
is what it
remember.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So each one of the tributes instead is a giant marionette of the icon for each one of whatever the IPs are. So you'd have one that's like a giant marionette of Pennywise. You'd have a giant marionette that's a Big Daddy. You'd have a big marionette that is something from Midnight Mass that I'm not going to say.
Right.
You would have one of Guillermo del Toro's creatures as a marionette.
It's just Guillermo. It's just him.
It's just him as a marionette. And then the thing they had all the pumpkins hanging from last year?
Yeah.
So that would be lined with dummies and like puppets and all different sorts of puppets from all different years. Just the entire thing done with puppets and lights going through there, hanging from the ceiling. And then other than that, you would have like scare actors that were like the people from puppet theater going through the whole thing, right? And like working on puppets in the background. Like you could have a table set up, like a wooden table with creepy marionette stuff working on it, and like paint and stuff like that. So that's my first one. Now, my second scare zone. Oh, also, I'll say the placement for this one. The placement for that would be as you're walking in that first scare zone that gets you into the rest of the
I believe that's called Avenue of the Stars.
Yes.
Between Minions and soon to be Minions.
Great. Can't wait. So, the second scare zone would be, I believe that's in New York City, right? Where the tribute store usually is, but it's not anymore.
Yes.
So the second would be over there. And I actually thought it would be cool to have an IP-based scare zone. And my IP for this would be the Terminator, which Universal, I believe, has the rights to still. I know they got rid of the ride, but I think they still have the rights to it. Could be wrong. But I thought it would be kind of cool since they've never used it, and Terminator is technically, especially the first one, sci-fi horror, to have just a giant, basically Terminator-style battlefield in the middle of New York, and they could make the buildings with projections look kind of destroyed, have projections in the windows of like the Terminators going inside and like killing people and stuff like that. You could have soldiers running around. You could have Terminators walking around. You could have guys in like the big mech suit things from it. I mean, it could be really cool. So
you could have Arnold, like actually him, like pay him. Like you said, this is an expensive event, so we're going all out.
Go out, Arnold, every night.
Really Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh my gosh. So the next one after that goes to what is it called? It's the dock. I call it the docks, but San Francisco. Okay.
Yeah.
So it goes to San Francisco. And my idea for the San Francisco scare zone is called They're in Your House. And that sounds really weird and you don't exactly know what it is. So to give you an idea, this concept started as different bedroom scenes for different boogeymen that little kids would be dreaming up of. Kind of like, do you remember
Monsters Inc.?
No, Crypt. Do you remember how Crypt TV had the different?
Yes. Yeah.
So like that, and like, funny enough, like Monsters Inc., but each kid is dreaming up a different boogeyman. And then I thought, well, you know what? I don't really like that it's got kids in it, because I think that nowadays that's kind of people don't really want to think about bad things happening to kids.
Right.
Like we're at that point where it's just like, ugh, I don't want to think about that anymore. So I thought, well, how can that translate into something that would be an adult would be afraid of, or that wouldn't be aimed more so near that audience, so people didn't really have to think about that. So instead, I thought it would be interesting to do it where the idea is it's based off of kind of the shadow people, quote unquote, that people see in their house or whatever, and different types of shadow people that they see. So different types of monsters and boogeymen that could be inside of people's house, but not necessarily boogeymen that are just in bedrooms and stuff like that. So you could have a kitchen scene, you could have a staircase scene, just really scary images of things happening in people's houses. And a lot of the actors in the middle, you could have scare actors in the middle, you could have things they could hide in that they could jump out from still. It wouldn't be like a walking photo op necessarily like Crypt TV, but it would have different little sets, kind of like how Crypt TV did, but done better, where it's not just like a walk-in photo op where it was dumb. I hated Crypt TV. But that's beside the point. So
Crypt TV was just a traffic mess. Like when I went, I would avoid that scare zone like the plague. And it was cool to watch, but once it got busy, you could not get through there because people were stopping and videoing the scenes. Like that was just a nightmare. But anyway.
Yeah. It's very true. All right, anyway. The next part would be the Cave Troll's Den, which would be in Central Park. Now that my idea for that, I don't know how exactly uh, to describe it, but I guess the best place would be kind of like a medieval fantasy, but not Terra Cruentia or whatever it was. I don't know. I'm probably going to be in the minority here, but I really don't like Terra Cruentia and the whole idea they've made of that fantasy land thing. I'm thinking more so like traditional knights with dragons and monsters and stuff like that. So you go inside of a cave as you're going through, kind of like how they created last year, the Scarecrow farmhouse or whatever.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Make it a cave. There's one troll. There's one cave troll, and that is an animatronic that's in there that's just kind of moving around and doing scary stuff and yelling or whatever. And the rest of it could be like goblins, and you could have knights that are on pikes and stuff like that. And it would be pretty cool. So yeah, that's just kind of my idea for that scare zone. And last but not least is over in what city is that supposed to be? Hollywood?
Hollywood. Yep.
Hollywood, okay. So last but not least is over in Hollywood, and it would be Vamp 25. And the idea is that there is a Halloween party going on in 1925. So think of like the Great Gatsby, like the rich people kind of Halloween party. So like there's Halloween decorations and stuff like that, but also it's black suit and tie. People are wearing like the cute little masquerade masks with like pumpkins and stuff like that. And so you go inside this Halloween masquerade style party that's going on, and they're all vampires, and it's in 1925, and that's all I got.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the best I got.
That almost sounds like one of mine. One of mine is like that, but I'm gonna save that for when we get to mine. Do you want to talk about your shows?
I mean, no. There's just a Lagoon show, and there's night. I honestly, I don't even like Nightmare Fuel. I really don't.
Yeah. No.
However, I couldn't think of a show to go there, and especially because, and I don't mean this in a bad way, I didn't watch Nightmare Fuel last year, but I did the year before that. And when I heard it was coming back, I was like, okay, what did they change? And I remember walking by it, and it sounded exactly the same. I don't know if they used the same exact stuff again. I think they changed like a couple things up, but I'm pretty sure it was almost exactly the same, right? Or am I mistaken?
I didn't see it last year. I thought 2 years ago was fantastic. I saw it that year with like all like the illusions and stuff like that. I thought that was amazing. Like how like they put the guy to bed. Obviously, you can't watch it now, so I'm gonna spoil it. They put the guy to bed because it's like him having a nightmare, and they pull the sheet away and he's gone. It's like, where did he go?
Yeah,
like
no, it's interesting.
He's on a big stage and like there was literally nowhere else for him to go. So it was literally like, where did he? And then like they like locked him in like this like cage and then like wrapped it in like duct tape and then blew it up. And then he wasn't in there. Like that was so cool. And then I don't know, I didn't see it last year, but I just want them to bring back Bill and Ted, honestly. But anyway, and then I saw your Lagoon show is called No Strings Attached.
Yeah.
I know it's like for your puppet theme. I think what we all really want is just a reunion of NSYNC. No Strings Attached.
Oh my gosh. I don't think that's what we want, but I appreciate it.
And like they're gonna be like swimming. I don't know.
They're up there on the stage. That's all it is.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, they're on the lagoon.
Oh my gosh, that is too funny.
Well, anyway, do you want me to go to my map now?
Yeah, dude, I'm down.
All right. So my map. I actually use the RIP Tour podcast layout. It's a mix of there is a musical artist, and that's actually my first IP. I'll just get right into it, I guess. My first IP is Ice Nine Kills. Welcome to Horrorwood. It would be based on 2 albums, The Silver Scream and then The Silver Scream 2. Welcome to Horrorwood, Weston, I know you're not really that familiar with Ice Nine Kills, but I think their music lends itself perfectly to a house.
Oh yeah.
Uh, they have they have I'm just on the Silver Scream track listing. They have songs based on A Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Halloween, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Saw, Jaws, The Shining, American Werewolf in London, Scream. They also have on the second album, there's one on Psycho, American Psycho, and I just think my idea would be almost like a Slaughter Cinema, just like each thing has a scene, and it would be each room is a different song and like a different movie, and I could almost see this being like originally I thought it would be like the campy house, but I don't think so anymore.
No, it'd be cool.
Yeah, I think it'd be really cool. And I think I was just listening to it, and like the second album kind of opens up almost like a this tape was found by detectives after the lead singer murdered his girlfriend, and this was found at the scene or something like that.
Was
Um,
his name Ginger Snap by any
no,
chance?
his name was not Ginger Snap, but but I do think Ice Nine Kills would be such a good house, and it's right up front, like it's the first house on my map. Like when you walk in, that is that is at the event. I think that would have long lines, and I feel like people that didn't know who Ice Nine Kills was would listen to it. Like they would gain so many fans because of Horror Nights if they came to the event.
Yeah, you're more than likely correct.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. Like the weekend. I wasn't really a fan of the weekend, and I mean, I'd heard his music. I liked his music, but like, I consider myself a big fan of his music now. Anytime he comes on, I jam out to it. I jammed out in the house. But Ice Nine Kills a little different music. It's more like heavy metal rather than like R&B pop. Um, But anyway, moving on to my second house, which is also a music house, and this is Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street, which I think kind of sells itself. It's a Broadway musical that is pretty much one of the only like horror movie style um, musicals, and I was thinking that it could be portrayed in black and white, like the movie, the what's his name, Tim Burton movie. I think that would be such a good house.
No, I agree.
Yeah,
I 100% agree. I don't
sorry,
even know what else to comment on. Like
I was
I agree. I think that doing it, especially now, in my opinion, what I think would be really cool. Sorry, I had my mute on actually because there's a gnat in my house and it's annoying the crap out of me.
yeah, I was like, did I lose him? What's going on?
No, so it's my idea with it too because I really like that idea. But what if it was designed more so like what is that one that we went in not last year but 2 years ago, Tooth Fairy,
Oh
where it was
yeah,
kind of like a
right,
storybook kind of thing. Like that would
right,
also be really really
yeah.
cool too if it was like that.
Yeah, that would be. I think that would be cool too. Probably not like the narration like that, but I think that
No.
but definitely have Sweeney Todd like popping out like with like the razor, like swinging it around and stuff, and Mrs. Lovett, and just like lots of blood. It'd be a very gory house.
Yes, for sure, but it would be really cool too.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Hmm.
All right. So moving on, I don't like I'm not going really into like that much into depth like you did, but I'll still start with the IPs and then I'll go to um the originals. So my next house, another IP is Stephen King's Pet Cemetery, based on the movie from the late '80s. This is honestly one of the scariest movies I've ever seen. Have you ever seen it, Weston?
Which one? The 70s one or the new one? I've seen the
So
70s
it's
one.
it's the 80s, the late
Oh yeah,
80s.
I've seen it.
Yeah, I think that is like peak horror movie. It's fantastic. Um, Herman Munster is in it. The guy that played Herman Munster is their neighbor. Um, he's also in My Cousin Vinny, one of my favorite movies. And I just think it would be a great house. I think any of Stephen King's. I almost put so it, but I wanted to put a Stephen King house, and I was torn between this and Carrie because I think Carrie has the same vibe as Pet
Agreed.
Cemetery. But I chose Pet Cemetery instead because I can actually watch Carrie and not be completely freaked out, but Pet Cemetery completely freaks me out. So what a great idea for a house if it completely freaks me out.
Agreed. No, it's pretty scary too. I think it's pretty scary at least.
Oh yeah, definitely. Okay, so my next IP house, Jeepers Creepers, based on the movie, obviously. The first movie, the original. This is another movie that I haven't watched in its entirety in a long time, but I just remember it really freaked me out and how it was like the creature was like almost like a bug creature that like walked on the ceiling, and it's for that reason like when I like wake up in the middle of the night like after a nightmare I like look up at the ceiling just to make sure that there's nobody there, because there's a scene in it, spoiler alert, where they're like in the police station. I don't know if it's the first one or the second one, but like in the police station and like the creature is like crawling on the ceiling. Creepy. And then like he steals people's eyes. Scary.
It is very scary. That's a
Yeah.
weird concept for a movie that I think is super scary.
Yeah. I think and you can have like that like because in it before like he would see him would be they play the like the old song Jeepers Creepers, Jeepers Creepers, where'd you get those peepers? And because obviously he stole people's eyes when he killed them. But yeah, Jeepers Creepers. My next IP and final IP house is Nickelodeon's Are You Afraid of the Dark? I haven't seen, so this is a 90s show from Nickelodeon. It's also they remade it. I haven't seen the remake, but I know the original terrifying. And even to this day, I question what they were thinking when they thought that that was a show for children. Um, well, not children, but like tweens and teens. So basically, it's kids sitting. Weston, have you ever seen Are You Afraid of the Dark?
You know what? It's been a long time, but I did watch it a little bit. Probably a while ago when I was younger, when it was on, possibly.
Right. So basically, like the premise is, kids sitting around a campfire, and each one of them takes turns each episode telling a ghost story. And I think the first scene you walk into the house, it's them like sitting around the campfire, and there was a submitted for approval by the Midnight Society. They're the Midnight Society. Then they, like throw like sawdust on the fire. The fire like gets stoked up, and then it shows whatever story that was. And there are some terrifying stories. They did like one like the Phantom of the Opera. They did another one with like clowns. Almost like in that scene in It Too, where they're in like the mirror maze. From what I remember, they did a scene like that with like a clown, I think. But I was like 4 years old when it came out, so
Yeah.
traumatized me, and it's still traumatizing. Um, but yeah, I think that that would be a great house. I know Nickelodeon used to be at Universal, but now I found out they're owned by Paramount. I'm like, oh, Nickelodeon used to be at Universal. They must still have the rights. Wrong. But I still think it would be such a good house. And I feel like it's almost like hits that like nostalgia um house, like nostalgia for older like people our age that might have watched it in the 90s. But yeah, I think it would make a really good house. Especially because it's very recognizable.
I agree. And I think it was like some sort of clown serial killer or something like that.
Yes. Yes, definitely. So that's all my IPs for houses. Now I'll go to my original ideas. The first one being The Curse of Ravencroft Manor. So this is actually based on a true story. My older brother, went to Franklin Pierce University in New Hampshire for a little bit, and there was a ghost story that people would tell about this lady who was the namesake of the theater there. Um, Her last name was Ravencroft, and she supposedly practiced witchcraft. Um, and it's almost a story like La Llorona in a way, where she was like like listening to spirits. They told her to go down and take her kids to the lake on campus and drown them. And so she listened to them and she went and did it. And she got back to her after it. She went back to like her mansion on the property and she couldn't believe what she did. She was so upset about it that she went and hung herself, killed herself. And there is a urban legend on campus that on Halloween night, if you look up, there's like the mansion on campus is like I believe it's admissions now, but there's a big window on top, and apparently you can see her like hanging body up there sometimes like on Halloween or I don't know when, but people say that you can like see like the silhouette of her hanging body. The ghost hunters went and they didn't find anything, but apparently she also haunts like the theater there too. Like you
That's
can
mega
hear like
creepy.
yeah, and yeah, it's just like it's super it's super scary, and the fact that like I had almost not experienced it, but like had been where it happened makes it like when I was thinking about an original concept, I was like, huh, this could be a really good house. And considering it is kind of based on a true story as well.
No, I think that's awesome, and I like when they use somewhat real life events to inspire
Right.
everything. I think that's super cool. So no, I agree with you. That's awesome.
Yeah. And so my next house is called Caught on Tape. Don't really have much of an idea for this one. I was kind of thinking about it would be loosely based on, I don't know if this could be the comedy house, maybe, but it was going to be loosely based on the like found footage horror movies like Paranormal Activity, Blair Witch Project, where and I feel like you'd be like following around a guy who's filming stuff like on his camera. um, Part of me, what was I originally? There was something that was originally going to be. Oh no, that's another house. But 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 yeah, that's kind of all I have for this one. It's going to be like like a found footage, like someone with a video camera, like filming the like. I guess could be like a horror movie, but it's like happening in real life in a way. I don't know.
I think it sounds cool, kind of like Blair Witch type stuff.
Yeah, Blair Witch or like Paranormal Activity, how it's like a home movie.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think that's a great idea, especially because the caught on film stuff is really scary, or the shaky cam stuff can be super
Right,
scary. So a
right,
found
right,
footage, yeah, it's all pretty scary.
right. Yeah, so that's really all I have on that one. My next one is kind of similar to one that you have, and I just called it Cult. This one I kind of based on I don't know if you've ever heard of the cult called Heaven's Gate, Weston.
Yeah.
It was
Oh yeah.
a
No, of course.
Yeah, it was a cult where like outer space things and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and that your body is a vehicle, and then so basically they found all these people. The leader of it told everybody that there's an afterlife that's way better than this, and then everyone went to this one place and all committed suicide. And um I don't know. Like I said before, cults really scare me. I'm afraid I'm gonna be like abducted by a cult, and then I'm in the cult. And so yeah, that's why I chose a cult house. I don't know.
I like it. I think it's cool. No, I agree.
Yeah. And then after cult, I have Serial Row, which is it's the logo is Death Row, but then someone wrote in blood cereal over death, so it's Row, not like breakfast cereal, like serial killers. I had to. This is audio only, so I wanted to.
Cereal row.
I
It's like
wanted.
actual cereal.
It's got Captain Crunch and Toucan Sam and the rabbit from Tricks,
Yeah, tricks
and
of
but
kids.
no, this is serial killers. So I thought of maybe having a house. I don't think this is technically an IP, but I wanted to have just like all famous serial killers
Oh yeah,
in
no,
one
that's not an
house,
IP.
one
No,
house
okay, you were
together.
asking me about that. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, that's
yeah,
not an IP. No, that's awesome.
yeah. And so I was thinking like Jeffrey Dahmer, John Wayne Gacy. I can't think of what was the other guy's name that Zac Efron played. Can't think of his name off the top of my head. Yeah.
Somebody not good.
Of course, when I'm um, when I'm in the moment, I can't think of it.
Who does he play? I don't remember.
He played Ted Bundy. Ted
Ted
Bundy.
Bundy. That's who it was.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, for sure.
But I thought, like a house just with like the familiar characters like that, and it's set in a prison, like where they all were,
Yeah.
and like on death row, except they're not dying, you are. My original concept for this house was going to be a Zodiac killer house, and anytime that they're like the only scares were the Zodiac killer killing you. So like pretty much in that you would die multiple times, but the scares um would be almost like the original Dead exposure where they use like a camera flash. Like that's all you would see. And since no one really knows who the Zodiac killer is, Ted Cruz. But anyway, since no one knows who the Zodiac killer really is, um they like it would almost be like a flash, but then you'd see like a shadowy figure come out to kill you and stuff. So but that's not what I chose. I chose serial row instead. And I know we're crunched on time, so I'm gonna go quick.
No, it's okay.
um, and then my last house is Hookman. I'm sure everybody has heard of the urban legend of the Hookman. Thought that'd be a great house. I'm surprised that they haven't made a house out of it yet. Where the kids are on a date, and then they're like parked, they're making out, and then there's a transmission on the radio that says there is an escaped convict in the area, and the way to tell who he is he has a hook for a hand, and they're like, oh no, we got to get out of here. So the guy drives her home, and I think there's other things like the car wouldn't start, like typical horror movie horror story things. Um, and so he drives her home. He goes out to open the door for her, and the hook is on the door. Dun dun dun. But my granddad used to tell us that story all the time when we were kids. And I think that it could be really cool to interpret that into a house.
I think so too. That would be awesome, actually.
Because it's very familiar, and urban legends just make good houses anyway.
Yeah, they do.
And I don't know if they've done anything like this. I don't think they have, but yeah, I think it would translate really well. So those are my houses. Now we're going to go to my scare zones. Um, so my first scare zone would be in the Avenue of the Stars, which is right at the front of the park. Or I think now, since it's both going to be Minions there, I think it's called Illumination Avenue or something like that. It's going to be called that or something. I don't know. But anyway, that's Altars of Horror Rampage. So Weston, the first year that we went, when you were talking about when they had all the different characters from the houses out there, that was called Altars of Horror. And so this is like
Yes.
a sequel to that house where I just think a photo op scare zone with characters, IP characters from all the houses there. That's basically it. I just think that's a great, like, really kick off Horror Nights with a bang like that. Um, I just think like a good introduction to what you're going to experience.
Me
I
too.
think that's what that first scare zone should be.
Agreed.
Which you did the same thing, and I think that's the way. A couple times they haven't done that, like Anarcade a couple years ago, which was really good scare zone,
Hmm.
but it didn't really introduce you to anything. And I think that first scare zone there should be an introduction to Horror Nights, almost like the opening credits.
Agreed.
But yeah, and I think that this scare zone would really do that, and I think it'd be great for right there. Okay, my next scare zone is the one that I told you my wife came up with the idea. It's a fantastic idea. It's in Hollywood, not Hollywood. I'm sorry, New York, and it is called Crazed. So this is actually based on recent events,
Okay.
and everybody knows about the Taylor Swift ticket fiasco.
Oh my gosh. Where's this
And
going?
so basically, you are one of the lucky few that has gotten a ticket to, it doesn't have to be Taylor Swift. It can be any popular artist that has a ticket that was hard to come by. You are one of the lucky few that has gotten a ticket and you're walking into the concert, and outside are almost like zombified, crazed fans of that artist that could not get a ticket. And I just think it'd be just crazy, like insane, psychotic fans
That
of
actually would be really funny.
said artist. So I think that's almost like the comedy. I mean, there's another one of my scare zones is also comedy too, but I think this is like comedy, but also like real world. Like this actually probably happens. Not zombified people, but
I mean, it's a little scary. I'm not gonna lie to you.
yeah, right. And that's why I'm glad I didn't go to Taylor Swift, because I feel like this is what would happen if I tried to go, this exact situation. Um,
Agreed. Agreed.
my third scare zone is in San Francisco, and it is also a vamp, like you had a vamp, and it
Ooh.
is vamp 35, not 25. And my idea of this is basic. It's 30s gangsters, but vampires.
Are they gonna come out and they're gonna go, yeah, forget
They're
about it?
gonna be like that, but they're gonna be vampires. And I think you park a couple like 30s cars out there, and you have people just like dressed like they're from the 30s. Maybe play some like 30s music in the background.
Agreed.
Boom, perfect scare zone.
Agreed.
And I love Vamp. I think that's great. I don't think a lot of people want that to become a house. I don't think it'd be good as a house. I think that's really good as just uh, a scare zone. I think it really works for a scare zone because so much can happen in a scare zone where in a house you're really contained and you have to have a story and everything. But like you didn't experience Vamp 85, did you?
No, I didn't.
No, because it was just so cool. Because like there was so much going on, and you could literally weave yourself through and see so many different things. And that's why I loved Vamp. But I didn't put this in New York like that one was. Put it in San Francisco. I don't know why, but I think that yeah, just like 30s is a good era, and I feel like everyone was always so happy in the 30s, but
Wait,
they're not going to be what.
everyone was happy in the 30s. That was
I
the
mean,
Great Depression.
I mean, compared to like the 40s, like when they were like at war, I don't know.
I think this is a weird conversation, but I think they were happier in the 40s and people were more patriotic, even in war. Like, weirdly enough, they were super patriotic and like banded together in the 1940s and 50s, even though it wasn't a great time for everybody. It was
Right.
still, they were still a more positive group of people in the 40s in America than they were in the 30s when everybody was like, well, we can't afford to eat, so let's have some toast with beans on it. Like, that's about,
Right. Yeah. I mean, I guess you're right. That makes sense.
yeah.
Maybe the vampires run the place and they're like, "You want to eat? Let me suck your blood or something." I don't know. Dude, let me do what a
go.
vampire does. See?
Oh my
All right, moving on from Vamp 35. This is Take going to Central Park, and this is Derailed. Not much of a concept here. A train crash. That
Oh,
is
okay.
the concept. I thought that in like the area between the lagoon and Central Park and like the woods there, you could have like a crashed like locomotive or something like that. That's really and like maybe it's zombies, maybe it's survivors running around in there, but it could be like all like foggy like it usually is in Central Park, but it's like a train crash and who knows what else lurks in there. Maybe there's wild animals, maybe there's I don't know. Harrison Ford from The Fugitive is in there. I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
But
What the heck?
that was a train crash.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, it was.
it was, yeah. I was actually watching that when I thought of that. I'm like, ooh, that'd be a cool like scare zone, just like that whole scene. But anyway,
Yeah.
my final scare zone in Hollywood is an IP, and me and Weston have joked about having this at Horror Nights. I think it was tough to decide between a scare zone and a house. Chose to put it in a scare zone, and it's Pee Wee's Big Adventure. So this would be pretty much. I don't think Pee Wee would even be in it. Maybe he would, but
Seems
I'm
coming.
picturing people like riding the bike around everywhere. I'm picturing all like the villain characters like Francis, like who else? Oh, Andy with he has like the bone. Um I'm picturing the like evil clown surgeon. Um
Oh, definitely gonna have those.
and then yeah, and then they're just playing like that like the breakfast music like dun, 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 dun. I think that and I think you could have like the bikers in there, and because it's in one of the bigger areas besides in New York, so I think that that would be a perfect spot to put a Pee Wee Scare Zone. And it's Tim Burton, so it was actually Tim Burton's first film. So it could have like that like creepy Tim Burton twist to it. But I've said it many times before to you, Weston. I think that Pee
Agree.
Wee's Big Adventure lends itself great to a house. Um, but yeah, I didn't put
Yeah,
on this map. There wasn't any place to put shows, so I did not make any shows. But that's my map.
that's awesome. I love it. Pee Wee's Big Adventure is probably my favorite, but I also really like the idea of the actual like haunted house. I think that's really cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Right. Right.
I think that's awesome. So, well, cool, man. It's been fun. I think that those would both be pretty good years. I hope other people think so too. Um, but yeah, man, that's all I got. What are we talking about next? Do you know what we're talking about next, or you think by that time we might have a leak or something we can talk
We
about?
might have a leak. We might have some rumors, and also I think I'm gonna watch The Last of Us tonight. So maybe we'll be able to talk about
Ooh,
that a little bit because I
into
haven't
it.
watched it at all. And the rumor is that it's coming to Horror Nights. The video game is coming to Horror Nights allegedly. So I also have that downloaded on my PS5. Gonna play a little bit of that. So maybe in the next episode we'll talk about that. Or if there's other news, I'm sure between now and then we will have more information, more stuff might come out. We might even get an announcement. Who knows?
Yeah. No, who knows? But it's gonna be awesome regardless. So I'm excited.
Absolutely.
You wanna carry us out?
All right, I sure will. I don't know what to say, but thanks for listening, and I guess stay spooky, my friends.